Hello and welcome back to the Herbal Podcast, where we discuss all things herbs and horses to help you and your horse live a happy, healthier life, naturally. I am Kayla Dendy, your master herbalist, and today I will be discussing Boneset, a little studied herb whose name can be misleading. As always, please speak with your doctor or veterinarian before utilizing herbs or alternative medicine. This podcast is for informational purposes only, and is not intended or designed to be a substitute for qualified medical advice. Before we begin today's podcast, I want to take a moment and wish everyone in the United States a happy Thanksgiving tomorrow. I hope you have a wonderful day filled with family and friends around a beautiful meal shared with lots of love and laughter. Today, I am digging deep into the history of Boneset, a plant with a name that is both intriguing and somewhat misleading. You might think this herb was designed to mend fractured limbs, but its true power lies in fighting a deep, agonizing pain. A pain so intense it felt like the bones themselves were breaking. Meet Eupatorium perfoliatum, otherwise known as eggweed, boneset, and the sweating plant. For centuries, especially throughout the 18th and 19th centuries, boneset had no equal as a remedy for coughs, colds, and fevers. Its most famous application gave it its name, treating break bone fever, which referred to severe influenza or often dengue fever, characterized by intense muscular aches right to the bone. Historically, this indigenous North American plant was a staple for both Native Americans and early settlers. It was such a crucial medicine that Civil War troops relied on boneset infusions not just as a remedy for fever, but also as a general tonic to maintain health. In fact, during the war, it was often valued as a substitute for scarce quinine. Boneset was one of the most popular home remedies for colds and fever until aspiring became readily available in the early 20th century. Its traditional actions are powerful. It's a diaphoretic that induces profuse perspiration when taken hot, a potent febrifuge for reducing fever, a stimulant tonic for the stomach, liver, and bowels. While its medicinal effects are undeniable, I must warn you that the remedy is intensely bitter. One user described the experience of drinking the tea as about as much fun to drink as a tea made from earwax. Join me as I explore the fascinating chemistry and modern scientific validation behind this iconic American remedy. When trying to identify boneset, or Eupatorium perfoliatum, you are looking for a distinctive North American perennial, indigenous to the continent, and pervasive throughout the eastern half of the United States and Canada. It thrives in wettish, humid habitats like low meadow, stream banks, swamps, and roadside ditches. The plant's appearance gives rise to two of its common names, thoroughwort and throughwort. Boneset grows on an erect, stout, cylindrical, and hairy stem that typically reaches between 1 to 5 or 6 feet tall, often branching near the top. It grows in a straight stalk. Boneset also features signature leaves. The leaves is where boneset get its specific Latin epithet, perfoliatum, meaning through the leaves. The leaves are large, lance-shaped, and arranged oppositely. Crucially, the leaves are united at their base, or connate, meaning they clasp the stem, making it look exactly as though the stout stalk has punched right through them. This visual is, once seen, never forgotten. The leaves are rough and veiny on top and downy, hairy, and resin-dotted underneath, with coarsely or finely toothed edges. In late summer and early fall, flowering from July to October, boneset is capped by dense, broad, flat-topped clusters. These composite flower heads consist of small, dull gray-white to pale purple tubular florets, typically 9 to 40 individual flowers per head. The root system is comprised of fibrous roots and numerous stout rhizomes that allow the plant to form vegetative colonies. While the plant's odor is described as faintly aromatic or fragrant, its taste is legendary. The herb is astringent and persistently bitter. This bitterness makes the tea very unpleasant to drink, but adding honey to the mix can help make the taste more tolerable. The plant's unique appearance, especially the leaves looking like they were perforated by the stem, is what solidified its name, thoroughwort, and according to the ancient doctrine of signatures, helped give it the name boneset, as the fused leaves resembled broken bones. We've established that boneset is a powerhouse for fighting fevers and aches, but when you go out to gather this stout, hairy perennial, what exactly should you be harvesting? Historically, and in traditional medicine, the answer is quite comprehensive. Different traditions utilize nearly the entire plant, though some parts hold more sway in common usage. Traditional medicine often utilized the whole spectrum, noting that the leaves, flowers, and roots were all used in medicinal preparations. In official practice, The herb only is cited as official. The herb primarily refers to the aerial parts, that is, the stems, leaves, and flowers. The general terms for the parts used are the flower and the leaf. For peak medicinal value, it's not just what you gather, but when. The leaves and tops are traditionally gathered either in flower or just before flowering, or specifically after flowering has commenced. Interestingly, there's a good scientific reason to focus on the flowering tops. The plant contain a variety of active compounds, including unusual decafeoyl-glucaric acid derivatives, and these are particularly high in the flowers. Once harvested, the dried herb, the leaves and tops, is where the magic happens. The plant's virtues are easily yielded to both water and alcohol. The most famous preparation is the infusion or tea, which was a dominant home remedy before aspirin. It is also prepared as a fluid extract, powder, solid extract, and tincture. It is important to remember that all parts of the plant are considered active. When making a strong decoction and boiling it down to a solid extract, a process that takes great skill, the resulting medicinal material becomes a powerful stimulant, antispasmodic, and tonic remedy of great importance, though this process removes some of Boneset's relaxing properties. Finally, whether you use the dried herb to make a hot infusion to produce profuse perspiration for a cold, or a cold preparation to act as a mild tonic for the liver and stomach, prepare yourself for the taste. The herb is astringent and supremely bitter, a fact often outweighed by its historically noted efficacy. To understand the history of Boneset, we must first look at its names. They tell a story stretching back millennia and across continents. The scientific name, Eupatorium, is rooted in classical antiquity. It was named for King Mithridates Eupator of Pontus, who lived around 120 to 63 BC. The king was famous for trying to poison-proof himself by continually ingesting small amounts of various poisons. It was rumored he drank a special concoction called Mithridate, which was sought after as a poison antidote. While the exact connection is speculative, perhaps an earlier poisonous species was part of his formula, this ancient rule lent his name to this important genus. The common name, Boneset, comes from two distinct traditional beliefs. The first is the doctrine of signatures. According to this ancient theory, plants that resembled body parts could treat them. Because Boneset's unique leaves are fused together, appearing as though the stem has punched through them, the plant was thought to resemble broken bones fused together. Settlers used it to treat bone-related conditions, sometimes applying it with splint bandages. The most likely origin of its popular name is its great value in treating a severe type of influenza or dengue fever that caused intense pain, commonly called break-bone fever. The pain was so intense it felt like it went right to the bone. This history of treating fever is also reflected in its many other common names, including agueweed, feverwort, Indian sage, and the sweating plant. Boneset is a perennial herb indigenous to North America, thriving throughout the eastern half of the United States and Canada. Native Americans used the plant for millennia. It was a favorite medicine for intermittent fevers, chills, weakness, and pain. They called it the sweating plant and feverwort. Early European colonists quickly learned of its medicinal value, and it became one of the most popular remedies in the United States domestic practice. Boneset's history peaked during periods of high disease incidence. During the Civil War, it was a crucial medicinal plant. Troops on both sides received boneset infusions as remedies for fever and as tonics to maintain health. It was used to treat malaria, and due to the scarcity of quinine, especially for the Confederacy, boneset was widely used as a substitute. For centuries, boneset had no equal as a remedy for coughs, colds, and fevers. It was also highly valued during the 1918 influenza pandemic. For many years, boneset was a fixture in formalized Western medicine, being listed in the United States Pharmacopoeia from 1820 through 1916, and in the National Formulary from 1926 through 1950. Boneset tea remained one of the most popular home remedies for treating fever and colds until the early 20th century. Its use eventually waned when the synthetic pain reliever aspirin became widely available. However, even today, boneset's historical role is validated by modern usage. A homeopathic formulation containing Eupatorium perfoliatum was recently used in a large study in Rio in 2008 to minimize the impacts of dengue fever outbreaks, the same illness that gave the plant its famous name centuries ago. We've heard about boneset's incredible traditional efficacy against break-bone fever, but how does one plant perform feats that require pain relief, fever reduction, and immune boosting all at once? The answer is found in its fascinating chemical makeup. Boneset is loaded with a variety of active compounds, often categorized into groups that dictate its therapeutic action. The most memorable characteristic of boneset, its intensely bitter taste, is attributed to specific compounds. The herb contains eupatorin, a bitter glucosidal principle. This bitterness is not just unpleasant, it stimulates the digestive system and likely contributes to the herb's classification as a gastric bitter and a tonic for the stomach and liver. Boneset also contains sesquiterpene lactones. These are the superstars of boneset's chemistry, giving the herb its serious medicinal power. Boneset contains a large range of these compounds. These sesquiterpene lactones are described as highly immunostimulatory. Critically, research suggests that one of boneset's constituents stimulates white blood cells to consume more foreign agents, a process called phagocytosis. Clinical trials have shown that boneset stimulates phagocytosis better than echinacea. This action scientifically validates its traditional use as a remedy for infectious diseases. The herb has been found to be cytotoxic, and its sesquiterpene lactones are described as anti-tumorous and very active against cancers. The historical success of boneset in treating breakbone fever is supported by the actions of these chemicals. Clinical trials have confirmed that boneset is analgesic, working at least as effectively as aspirin. This pain-relieving property is key to understanding why it was the primary treatment for the severe body aches associated with influenza. The plant also contains a number of guanylolides. A specific dimeric guanylide is thought to be the lactone active against the malarial parasite. This activity validates its use during the Civil War as a substitute for quinine for intermittent fevers. Boneset's overall effect is boosted by several other constituents including flavonoids, caffeic acid derivatives, volatile oils, and polysaccharides. The plant contains at least 5 flavonoid glycosides, including astragalin, hypericide, and rutin. Flavonoids are often associated with anti-inflammatory actions. There are a number of caffeic acid derivatives present, including unusual dicaffeoylglucaric acid derivatives that are found to be particularly high in the flowers. Other components include volatile oil, tannic acid, resin, gum, and sugar, as well as polysaccharides. In short, the chemistry confirms that boneset is much more than just a fever reducer. It's a powerful internal agent. Its complex mixture of bitter principles acts as a tonic, while its sesquiterpene lactones prime the immune system to fight infection, and its analgesic properties directly combat the body aches that gave the plant its unforgettable name. While boneset is not currently listed in major pharmacopoeias, recent scientific research and large-scale applications point to several specific current and validated uses. The most direct evidence for current clinical efficacy comes from human trials and recent research focusing on its anti-infective and pain-relieving properties. Clinical trial has demonstrated that boneset reduces cold and flu symptoms. Boneset has been clinically shown to be analgesic, performing at least as effectively as aspirin. This action supports its traditional use in treating the severe body aches associated with influenza. In contemporary contexts, particularly in homeopathy, boneset has been used to address major viral outbreaks. South and Central American healers have used homeopathic preparations containing boneset to try and minimize the impacts of dengue fever outbreaks. In a large-scale application in Rio in 2008, a homeopathic preparation including boneset was given to nearly 160,000 people. The incidence of the disease in the areas using the homeopathic preparation fell by 94% compared to the same period the year before, whereas incidence increased by 128% in areas not using the preparation. Boneset continues to be used in herbal practice for its digestive and general tonic effects. It is considered a mild tonic and is noted as particularly useful in indigestion in the older populations. It acts as a stimulant and a slow but continuous tonic for the stomach, liver, bowel, and uterus. When taken cold, the infusion is used as a tonic. Although boneset is no longer a mainstay in conventional pharmacy, the recent research demonstrating its superiority to echinacea in immune stimulation and its proven analgesic and antiviral activity solidify its role in contemporary herbal and integrative medicine. The research on boneset suggests a strong scientific basis for its traditional uses as a fever reducer, pain reliever, and remedy for infectious diseases. Although relatively little modern research has occurred, given the plant's potent reputation and long history of use, the studies that do exist, including recent, in-depth research from Germany and clinical trials, validate several of its key actions. The most robust research supports Boneset's role as a powerful immune system stimulant. Current, in-depth research in Germany suggests that the plant has a much wider range of antiviral actions than previously understood, indicating it will likely become a more useful antiviral than previously suspected. Research conducted in Western Germany indicates that a constituent of Boneset stimulates white blood cells to consume more foreign agents. The herb itself has been found to be cytotoxic. In vivo studies using mice have shown strong cytotoxic action against cancer cells. The sesquiterpene lactones are described as anti-tumorous and very active against cancers. One study found the herb's cytotoxic strength to be comparable to the pharmaceutical chlorambucil. Research, while limited, suggests Boneset is a potent agent against specific pathogens. Boneset has demonstrated pretty good activity as an antiviral against influenza A, also known as H1N1. Boneset is considered a mid-level antiplasmodial herb. A specific dimeric guanylide is thought to be the lactone active against the malarial parasite. A homeopathic formulation was found to have a 60% inhibition rate against plasmodial replication, and in vivo studies with mice showed inhibition of plasmodial parasites. Boneset is mildly active against some gram-positive bacteria, such as Staphylococcus aureus and Bacillus megaterium. Safety is a crucial consideration for any potent herbal medicine. While Boneset has been extensively used historically, there are definitive warnings regarding its toxicity, specific components, and contraindications. Boneset is a powerful plant, and improper dosing can lead to adverse effects. Overdoses of Boneset could be toxic. When taken in large doses, Boneset can cause vomiting. Thus, an early sign that a person has taken too much Boneset is nausea. Generally, the cooler the tea, the less risk of nausea. However, to effectively combat fevers, the tea must be taken hot. Boneset contains pyrrolizidine alkaloids. Certain people with underlying health conditions or sensitivities could be negatively affected by these compounds. Pyrrolizidine alkaloids can be harmful to the kidneys and liver. They can potentially cause internal bleeding. This is why it is important to speak with your medical provider before consuming Boneset or any other herb. Some people can exhibit allergies to this plant. Individuals who are allergic to plants in the Compositae or Asteraceae family should be careful with Boneset. This family of plants includes chamomile, feverfew, ragwort, and tansy. I am not aware of any documented herb-drug interactions involving Boneset and pharmaceuticals, but if you have questions about any potential interactions, speak with your doctor or pharmacist. Boneset, or Eupatorium perfoliatum, is truly an unforgettable plant. Visually, its unique appearance, the stout stem seemingly punched right through the center of its leaves, earned it the name thoroughwort. Historically, its role was far more dramatic. It was the febrifuge of choice on the American frontier, standing as a pillar of American domestic medicine for centuries. For Civil War soldiers, Boneset was a crucial tonic and a fever remedy, often taking the place of quinine when supplies were scarce. Its most famous application, treating the agonizing body aches of severe influenza or dengue fever, cemented its common name, Boneset, derived from the searing pain of breakbone fever. Today, modern research validates this historical reputation. Studies have confirmed Boneset is an analgesic, working at least as effectively as aspirin, thus explaining its efficacy against those crippling aches. Furthermore, its traditional use against infectious diseases is substantiated by clinical evidence showing it stimulates phagocytosis better than echinacea. This immunostimulant action, combined with confirmed antiviral activity against influenza A, H1N1, suggests that this bitter herb remains a highly useful antiviral. Boneset is a powerful stimulant tonic for the stomach, liver, and bowel, and is a potent diaphoretic when taken hot, used to induce the profuse perspiration necessary to break a fever. However, the final lesson of Boneset is one of respect for potency. This herb is astringent and persistently bitter, so much so that the tea has been compared to the taste of earwax. Boneset ultimately reminds us that nature provides powerful, time-tested remedies. Though it may have yielded its place in the medicine cabinet to the synthetic ease of aspirin, its documented historical efficacy and proven scientific actions ensure that the story of this unbreakable herb, the one that healed pain right to the bone, will continue to be told. Thank you for joining me for today's discussion on Boneset. Next week I will discuss Brigham tea. I hope you take time to tune in next week for that discussion. As always, this podcast is for educational purposes only. The information contained in this podcast is not intended or designed to treat, cure, or prevent any illness or disease. This podcast is not designed as a substitute for advice from your medical provider, veterinarian, or other qualified healthcare professional.